We just wanted to have a kind of a casual but sincere check-in with everybody about where things are at, and this emerging Schumacher network. And really, it is this time to embrace not only that there is a global movement, this collective of legacy projects and practitioners, and thousands upon thousands of alumni and current students of Schumacher College, in one way or another, whether volunteer or lecturer, or wherever and however you came to be a part of this. And what I think we realize is that we wish now to help be of service to seeing ourselves in all the ways that we exist in the world, and also in that way help to be of service to weaving together projects and people, and illuminate all the amazing other parts of Schumacher that now exist, especially while the college itself is in crisis, and is kind of in an uncertain territory. And we don't want to spend too much time on this actual presentation, so I'm going to try and stay concise, which is a difficult thing sometimes because I like to just spin the yarns with folks. Um, but saying that, I just wanted to bring it right around to Celia, who introduced herself as one of the current students on the BSc, just to give everybody who might not be aware of the current context of like the students at the college right now. So I'm just going to jump right over to Celia, and then I'll carry on with some of the history and background here. So Celia, if you'd like to just share a few thoughts, please do so.
Yeah, cool. So this year, probably many of you, most of you heard there was well, all the courses were postponed indefinitely for future people. So we have students at the moment, and the BSCs will continue for the next. We can like my cohort can finish their studies, but there will be no new year next year. Um, and instead there will be short courses, etc. And they will try to find accreditation again in the future. So in the meantime, that creates a very different sense of community within the college, with very few really staying long term. And so really this global network, not only in this context, but like in any other context as well, is just an amazing way to stay connected to a form of larger community, Schumacher community, which is something that most, like a lot of us came for, as well. And um, I think, yeah, what what current students can offer is really kind of rooting the online or the global community back to the old postern and the memories there, and really kind of that sense of anchoredness to place. And then I think a lot of us would be super interested to like hear about all the different projects that are happening, and really knowing, like when we speak of all these alumni and all these projects that are happening around the world, to really know concretely what they are and who's doing what where, and where could we go on placements, or where can we find certain informations for a dissertation, etc. So it's, I think for me, um, yeah, it's really like a fruitful way to continue that community aspect of Schumacher while it goes through this current transition. Yeah, I'll keep it short as well. Well, I don't, yeah. So if you want to pass on, I think Ahmed
Yeah.
had the idea of someone from the OP, but I don't think there's anyone in the OP to just pop on. But so I think we can go next to the next slide.
Thank you, Celia. Yeah, and so as has been mentioned, and some of you've been a part of previous Schumie Global Alumni Network community gatherings, this is not the first time by far we've tried to really, collect the momentum and energy of the global community. And this beautiful map, like Guido did, is just a look at some of the what's happened before and what's happened now about our efforts up to date. And as of 2024, and Guido will get into his placement. He did an EDT assessment of this current thing, then we'll come into that too. But yeah, it's alive. There's a lot of energy and excitement because not only the college is in crisis in its ways, I think more than that, there's so many of us who are just so hungry to connect, both doing projects, but also knowing what each other is up to. And so this presentation is meant to be kind of a check-in about that and also a look at where we still need to bring forth more awareness and attention and weaving between the existing legacy projects, practitioners, and the work that's still happening at the college, and especially with Celia. And I think there's approximately 40 students that are left at the college over the next 2 years that could really use some emotional, spiritual, psychological support from us alumni and this group. So I think that's an exciting opportunity for us, even though it's a bit heavy. So go ahead and jump to the next slide, Ahmed. Excuse me. And all these slides we'll share for you to see later as well. So yeah, the Schumie Global Network has been around in this current form for about 3 years, and Matt Bentham, who casually said he was like a little bit a part of it, was deeply involved in it for a great while and helped put together the Schumie handbook that you see up here that's still active and can be accessed through either Discord or Hylo. And we really wanted to, and still have over these years, try to figure out what it means to govern and co-create and collaborate in a decentralized way together that really intentionally isn't focused on having its central hub at the college itself, but living through us students and alumni and these legacy projects. And so you see in here this lovely Schumie Global Network, which Kat Davis designed. She's not on the call, but she's did a lot of the graphic work for us, and she's amazing. Was a EDT or regenerative economics. I forget. I should know. Forgive me, Kat, but you're amazing. Anyways, so yeah, I just wanted to touch on this. You know, we've looked at the governance, we've looked at the structure, we've looked at all these how to do this global network thing, and we still are trying to figure it out together. But we're getting closer and closer to that, and that's what we're hoping to kind of move into today and over the next couple of weeks and months ahead while we sort out what's happening collectively for the global, but also for the college itself in this transitional time. Agma, go ahead and move to the next slide, please. Yeah, just looking back again, there has been efforts to create podcasts, newsletter. We hosted this September Equinox Assembly right when the college was entering this tumultuous time with the trust. And a lot of you who are here on the call now were there as well, and that was really beautiful. And we learned more about each other, which was really valuable. And it's been a slow process in some ways, but there's been a lot of generative energy and collaboration between then and now. And what also needs to be mentioned in some capacity is that this work that we alumni and students have been working on these past 3 years is also not the whole picture by any means. The Schumacher Society and other places, classic phone ring, are all doing great work, and we're starting to get the communication lines and the collaborative energy dialed in, but it's still a work in progress. And so that's what we're also hoping to focus on today, moving forward, and inviting all of you to see how we can do that, creating best practices, governance structures, and ways to, amplify and broadcast this really exciting group of people, these humans who've come together with a head, hand, and hearts ethos for 30 years now, and we want to work together and collaborate and be in have a place of belonging together. And so that's what we've been building. And again, I'll try and stay concise because we'll leave room for discussions and next steps, and the presentation will go into more of what has been accomplished to date. Um, so go ahead, Ahmed, please jump to the next slide, which Shannon will speak to now about some of the assessments and learning that we've discovered over the past 3 years.
Thank
Thank
you, Joe. Yeah, so the last 3 years, there have been ecological design thinking placements with this alumni group. And I will point out that the name has changed over time. Schumacher Alumni Community, Schumacher and Dartington Alumni Community. Now we're Schumacher Global Network. So the name keeps changing as it tries to be inclusive and gather people together. But so the students, we have approached this as a design project. Like, how do we design this network that is holding the spirit of Schumacher and this ecological center? How do you look at the processes of living systems and how we design this network? And what are the things that people are looking for in the network? And so, I mean, much dreaming has been done and conversation about all of this. And so here's Matt Bentham's paper that he did in 2022 and mine in 2023. And then this year, Guido has been with us to continue this process. So I'll just say a couple things about the things that have been emerging as to what people have said that they want in the network. A place for continued learning, a community of practice. People are looking for a space to collaborate on projects together, looking for peer-to-peer financing. We're looking for how to do this work in the world and how can we do it together so that we're not each doing it on our own, which is very hard. How do we keep this spirit of Schumacher alive? How do we share the work and how do we see what people are doing in the world? And so during my placement, there was an ongoing survey that kind of wrapped up as I was finishing. And the top two things that people wanted, and these were like 80 to 90% of people were signaling that this is the thing they wanted the most, was to meet new people in the alumni network and to collaborate on projects. So we were looking at how could we design for relationship and for connectivity. And Ahmed, could you go to the next slide, please? If you're still there, Ahmed. Where did he go?
I think he might have children duty.
He disappeared.
We're technical.
Okay, perfect.
Classic.
Well, I'll describe the next slide for you. It's a painting by Mar of a map of the network and the profiles. We did some prototypes for the profiles of what they could look like. And so we thought to see each other and the projects that people are working on. Oh. Okay, so yes, as I was describing, here's the map and our ideas for profiles. But the idea is that in this network, it's not only that we just see people, we don't want to have a directory. We want the network itself to function as a connector. So what sorts of things are what kinds of structures or processes are going to help us actually connect to each other? So we thought, okay, we want to see who each other are, where they are, and we want to know what is the work that people are doing in the world. So we need context of people and a searchable, some sort of way to search for location, skills, interests, those sorts of things. And to have a place where people could collaborate and to propose projects, ideas, and have space for conversation and co-creation. So what we found is this wonderful platform called Hylo, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that actually does all of these things that people are dreaming that we could do together. So I will pass it now to Guido to talk about what he focused on during his placement.
Hi, everyone. I'm trying to go to the next slide. There you go. So I was one of the EDT students that chose as a placement possibility the alumni network, focusing on the alumni network. And what my focus was about this year was basically reviewing all that was written on the Schumacher network, all the work that was done. And the first slide, the map that we showed, that was all the work that has been done in the last more or less 10 years that has been gathered and sedimented. And it's all work done by students or alumni. So this slide that you see here, it's a synthesis of the core points of all the visions that have been done and dreamt. So I think the main point is providing a space or a ground for the whole community to find coherence and self-organization. And it's really important that this network could be co-owned and co-created, and that it's open to change and evolution. And again, one core point was the network to keep connections and relationships alive, and also for it to be a space for continued learning, peer-to-peer support, to collaborate on projects and sharing ways of being. So me as well, I'll keep it short and I'll move to the next slide. So these are other two maps that I've done during the placement, and I think during my placement, one of my objectives was to being able to show and present the essential ideas and principles of this network. So here on the left, we have a map of the members with individual Schumies at the center. And as we move outside of it, we have related centers of Schumacher alumni and projects, but also projects and centers of people that maybe are not alumni of Schumacher, but that share the same ethos and philosophy. And on the right, something that I noticed happening with all the work that was done for this network, for this project, was that there is an ecosystem of Schumies on the ground that is setting up systems to nurture again the ecosystem of Schumies. And I think the fact of this dynamic to be almost like a self-reinforcing loop is quite important. The fact that the co-creation and self-organization keep on happening. And this is another little diagram that I designed after reviewing all the work that was done. So I'll walk you through this. We have a red rectangle that is the network, and on the left, on the right, we have all the members and the place-based projects that various members are doing, and on the left, we have the essentials for the network to stay alive as a living organism, self-organizing and self-regenerating. And this left part, I'm seeing in it, let's say, a little team of people, of stewards that can provide care and maintenance for the network and stewardship essentially. So I've been reading the work that was done in this way of this ground network, where on one hand has members which are present and can participate within the network, but on the other hand needs a little stewardship team that can care for it and keep it alive. And then the blue cell outside, it's the potential for external foundations or organizations that are still related to the network, because if they share a similar ethos or philosophy, and I've been sensing how some external organizations could help provide support for the stewardship team that can take care of the network itself. And also, in a way, once the self-organizing ground network is in place, then that web can provide a field for possible place-based projects that can be organized. I'll move to the next slide. And this is a little exercise and game that Hamid proposed. So
Guido,
if
I think
Hamid,
we're going to skip this and maybe do it at the end.
okay, cool.
If you just go ahead, yeah, skip this one.
Yeah.
I can pick it up here. Thank you. Um, okay, so what we're going to do right now is just tell you about 3 different initiatives. So Joe and Guido are going to tell you a little bit about Hylo and how we're envisioning this works for the global network. Ahmed is going to tell you about Schumie's Co, which is a proposal he's been working on for a cooperative funding and collaboration platform. And then Georgie is going to tell about the student-led initiative Schumacher Magazine. So you want to go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, I can jump in here real quick. So, Guido, thank you, first of all, like tremendous work on your placement project. And what's not in these slides are some of his maps made on Miro and beyond that are just so comprehensive and can help to see our current system in much more depth, which will be available on Hylo for you to explore. And what's beautiful about Hylo is it's a new platform that tries to get a lot of the distraction and noise away from uh, organizing and communicating in a social media ish way, but really, again, just very focused and distilled on the projects and the people who are engaged with it. And it has a mapping resource within it that if you input your data, your name, the place you're living, and then tag a number of your skills and experiences and passions, you're able to see how you fit into this map that just builds as you put yourself into it, and more input becomes available, including active projects that might be as big as Siendo Naturaleza or Escola Brazil or Mariposa or Schumie Gardens and Sprouts in Belgium, but also just like if you have a project that is something that's carried on from your dissertation, it can be a project on this map and people can see it, they can access it, they can join it, they can put money into it. Like Hylo has all of this built into it. And it's really exciting. It's still a work in progress, as in the development of that actual platform has some, kinks and bugs as they do, but they're working through it in pretty exciting ways. And so, yeah, what we're doing now is basically we spent 2 years on Discord, and we realized that wasn't very useful for like this right here. You see Georgina and the activities and tags that she's a part of, and ecological design thinking, and Guido's lovely presentation of his skills, interests, and ways of learning. And all of those are searchable within Hylo. So you can organize and find people in these ways and see how such projects like the magazine and one of the interesting legacy projects, you can see their dark community apothecary, which Kat Davis designed that beautiful logo for as well. And it's a beautiful platform to see ourselves. And as you can see, we still are in the early days, and Siendo Naturaleza and all the different schools and learning institutes and projects aren't all on there yet. But when they are, we will be able to cross-link, cross-collaborate, cross-pollinate between them while also having focused areas where you can just go and explore and be a part of something. And I think one of the ideas that we had with the groups, as far as like the MAs were involved, is that you didn't have to be an engaged ecology student, but if you were curious to learn about it, we're hoping to, have ways for you to access learning from the materials and reading lists, and likewise with any of the other holistic science basically a container for the history and the learning to continue, so that after you've come through the school, you don't your learning and connectivity to this network doesn't end. It's here and living, and this platform Hylo can hold all of this information. It just takes a bit of care and of a great deal of input, in the front end, but then it becomes a kind of self-generating system. And yeah, here's an example of the map, just already with people on it. You can zoom in and see a more detailed and comprehensive view, so that if you're ever traveling or looking for work in a particular region, bioregion, you can see who's already there and what projects are already there. And in this way, we can see ourselves again in a way that, especially when it does come time to seek more investing or get more buy-in to projects, we can show how robust a global network we have already. And really, right now, it's still the early days of calling in all of these past alumni and people connected to the Schumacher world to populate this map, because it will be full, of Shumis, when if we're able to get everybody to jump on here. Guido, I don't know if you want to add anything from your explorations, in this at all, or since this next slide's up, I'll just go ahead and say, um, yeah, like I think one of the big things that's been revealed is that there have been maybe a dozen or so people, and then hundreds more who've kind of come in and tried to nourish and support this global network. But it's all been love, sweat, tears, laughter, confusion, joy and hardship doing that. And we realize it's very vital for this to be supported. So there are proposals in the works for funded positions to help be the network weavers and help bring this forth. And I feel like this is perhaps a good moment to just bring in that, as Maria had mentioned, we saw each other a couple of weeks ago in Devon, and there are people coming together to consider a way to take this opportunity where Schumacher College is in this kind of crisis point and is also seeing itself in the ways that it exists throughout the world. How can we create something new to resource that global, this global, not only network that we're sharing about right now, but all the legacy projects and people and the right livelihoods that could be possible if we have a new structure, collective foundation. And so it's a very exciting time, and also a lot of questions to be answered. And that was another reason we had this presentation and meeting gathering, in hopes to just explore that together. So I'll leave it at that for the moment. And yeah, it's very exciting. Just a lot of moving parts that we're trying to get clear right now, with you all. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Guido.
Ahmed.
Yeah, beautifully shared, Joe, and everyone. Also, thank you for all that. Well, Hylo is sort of like the social communication connection part. We're also thinking about the legal and financial structure that we could create. As Joe said, we want to collaborate, we want to work together across the world, we want to fund projects, and we need to, it's the desire is there for so long, to come together and work together on all projects, but also to show the strength of the collective. So this is a proposal that I've worked with the team and also with Greater Than, who includes mainly Fran and David that I worked with, or chatted with rather. And I believe Fran is she teaches in one day doing regenerative economics. Francesca, forgot her last name, but yeah. So we sat with them, we said, what if we can create a place where we can officially collaborate together on projects and submit proposals as an entity? What if we can create a membership fee that feeds into activating the network and its projects and members? And what if we're able to receive funding where the money that we receive is then decided and co-governed by the network? And so this proposal came from that desire. So Shumisco is sort of based on 3 platforms, as you can see. Co-budget being the sort of decision-making, co-budgeting platform, and I'll explain how it works later. Open Collective is the legal entity and the bank, basically, a money management platform, where also the fundraising and membership fees can come into. And then Hylo is where we communicate and share about the projects. We can have discussions. We can show timelines of the projects that are asking for funding. And yeah, it's really like seeks to support the projects across the world and the people that are working on these platforms. And potentially beyond just Schumacher Alumni Network in the future. So that's just the, yeah, sort of imagine it's like like a collective that funds regenerative projects across the world, starting with alumni. So to explain how it works, I hope this makes sense, because it does to me, but you know, I've been in it for a while. So Guido, if you can go on the next slide, please. Basically, the idea is the Open Collective is where the money goes through grants, contributions, and also membership fees, being part of Schumie. And being a member means you're actively participating in it. You're able to access its budget. I think Shannon have mentioned this. We're really looking at sort of these different entities as independent in some way, but also in that interact with each other. So you don't have to be part of Schumie if you just want to be in Hylo, but this is sort of like a next level of engagement. And the funds are the membership fees, again, are used to fund these rounds that co-budget uses. So imagine there's 10,000 euros in our Open Collective, and we say, let's start a round. There's a few people that want to fund their projects. And we say, this process will take 7 weeks. I have more detailed description of this in the proposal. And of course, this will be worked on if we go ahead with it. So we have, for example, 4 projects: a startup fund for a community organization somewhere in South America, a research initiative in North America, educational program in Europe, regeneration project in Africa, let's say. And so individuals that are part of Schumie can, or maybe even anyone, we're not sure about this yet, but people can start a bucket, what they call sort of a space where they're asking for a specific kind of budget. They have a proposal with detailed sort of information about what they're looking for, what their project is, and what budget they're looking for. And so they communicate through the Hylo project page. So they talk about the project a bit more there, but then there's also on co-budget is sort of like a more specific part that they're looking to fund. And then members that are part of Schumie can then opt in. Not everyone has to be voters or distributors, as we're calling them here for now. They can opt in to vote how much of the 10,000 should go in which project. So each member, let's say there's 5 people, and so each person will get 2,000, and then they will decide where their share of the co-budget would go in which project. And then at the end, we'll look at the results. Maybe someone has like too little money and they say, I don't think I can go ahead with this. Maybe I'll just pass it on to a project that just needs a bit more, or maybe they're asked for more because this is essential. And so there'll be also discussions how that goes. And then through open collective, the funds will be distributed to how things were voted. And so this will probably can go like 2 to 4 times a year, let's say, depending on the funding that's coming in. And part of the work, there'll be stewards for Schumie School, and they'll be sort of like managing these rounds and the platforms and the membership and the open collective financial management. But they'll also be looking for funding. And it would be like, this is the entity that the funding can come through. And then there's no sort of like hierarchy on who chooses where the funding goes. It's more about anyone in the sort of, in the Schumie School can decide where then the money goes based on them. So that's the general idea. Guido, if you can go next. I'm talking a bit too much, I know. So the plan is to start in June to work with Greater Than for 6 months to establish the platform. And then we have for the first round with a group of people that are interested to be part of this and they have projects they want to be funded. And then in January, we invite the greater community. And then December, we reflect and see what to do next, sort of thing. This is a bit more detailed, of course. I don't want to go too much into it in the proposal, which we'll share. And then there's a budget too. Next slide, please, Guido, that we've already established based on what we need. Again, this is in talks with Greater Than, who have a good idea of how much we would need. What we would need also in terms of process to have an established project. By the end, this is a 2 years period, funding for 2 years. And then by the end of it, it should be self-funded, because then we can use the co-budget itself to fund the positions of the stewards. So people will then also vote, maybe the stewards are not going to be paid based on the community's choice. So they will be, we'll do rounds to fund these positions, including also Hylo waivers and also, the overheads for the platforms. So, this is the idea is just to have this financial instrument where we can move the energy of money around and support the emerging structures that will help connect to the alumni and get them to work together, and also the projects that the alumni are working on. I think this is the last slide. Guido, if you can. Yeah, that's it.
Cool, thank you, Ahmed. I'm just going to chat a bit about the Schumacher magazine as a project. If you could go to the next slide, please, Guido. So the Schumacher magazine emerged as an idea at the end of last year, in a way, in a response to all the changes that were happening. I think as a student body, we felt quite a sense of grief and uncertainty about the future of the college, and we wanted to come together to create something that could celebrate the unique sort of energy that you feel when you're in the Poston. And there was a group of us who, on a volunteer basis, gathered together a bunch of stories, mostly from the existing student body, and put together this magazine. I know some of you watching have a copy of it. And it was really just sort of a fun experiment and a celebration. And we've been really super surprised by how it's been received and how we've been encouraged to keep the project going. There's also a virtual version of it on that link. If anyone would like it, we can send the link out if you haven't seen it yet. And we're actually busy printing our last 50 copies of the hard copy. So try get a hold of us if you'd like one of those. But if you could go to the next slide, Guido. Because we were kind of encouraged to keep the project going, the core team have got together and we did some sort of dreaming and visioning about what the future of the magazine could look like. We just had a visioning idea of, could we have a website? Could we make this a biannual publication? Could we have a membership fee? what would it look like to have a podcast or a YouTube channel? And how could we use a magazine to not just be something that tells stories from the current student community, but could it be sort of a public facing entity that tells the world the story of Schumacher in the world and this network in the world? So that's been more the interest about where it could go in the future. And so if you can go to the next slide, Guido. Yeah, with that vision in mind, we've come together with a bit of a year-long action plan of where we see the magazine going. And we've also, along with that, put together a funding proposal, which would get the magazine to a self-sufficient space in the next year. Ideally, we would have a website set up by the end of the year, along with this membership fee that would have a biannual magazine, print version of the magazine posted to all members. Yeah, and that's kind of the dream at the moment. And the hope is that we can use the magazine to continue spreading the beautiful stories of Shumis in the world to each other and to others. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Georgie. I will come back here. This slide is one of the other slides from my placement, and I was taking into consideration that there are these projects sprouting, and I've placed them on a map, which is not a calendar, so it's not the map of 2024, but it's just a map of the energetic quality of seasons, as well as a little reference to the dragon dreaming process, which is a tool for designing a project. And so, for example, the yellow rectangle says perception and perspective. And by that, I mean all the visioning and the dreaming that this group has done. And I've placed it at a late summer period, which is a period of celebration and a period of harvesting and bringing home the fruits of all this visioning. And the other project, for example, at earlier on, more at a sprouting stage. Some of them are still at the planting stage, so I've placed them in late winter, and the Schumacher magazine and the global network with Hylo, for example, they're sprouting now, so they're I've placed them in the early spring. And I have another slide here, which is my last one. Oh, sorry. Which is a little collage of all these projects, just to give an idea of what's going on. And on the left, we have these 3 platforms that could hold the space of this network together. And one is about communication. And so we have the dolphins that are very good communicators. And one is about being able to allow a financial flow in, which is the open collective, and the co-budgeting is basically allegorically is a tool to then redistribute that flow. And on the far right, we have instead the magazine, which could be a space where we can weave the story of Schumacher and present it to the world, like an African weaver bird that weaves its nest. So I was thinking here at the magazine as a nest in which we can weave all the stories of Schumacher. And then I've placed this picture of a mother bird feeding the small birds, because my sense was that it is that all these projects are very young and sensitive, and they need to be fed a little bit by ourselves, by all the members of the network, really, by whoever has the resources to help this flourish.
Yeah, so we're gonna open up to discussion. Thank you, Ahmed, Shannon, Guido, Georgie, Celia, and me, I guess, but all of you too. And I think the thing I just wanted to wrap up before we get into conversation is all of us are here as co-facilitators, co-creators, and really there is a desire for this to be a really decentralized autonomous organization in that sense that we all came through this educational ethos and in these programs, whether it was a full MA or a short course or even as volunteers or any which way. And there's so many ways that this can manifest moving forward. So what's been shared are examples of those early efforts. And then there's also the what ifs that we're totally welcoming you as co-creators in this process to share with us too. There's so much potential around building a organizational structure to have that mapping system be able to be an agile consultancy firm that all of us have our skills and abilities that we can offer to various projects around the world. There's so many ways with which this can manifest. And the last thing I'll say before just the end of this thank you is that the college itself is a part of this, the land that it's a part of, and then what comes next there, of course, though this lives outside of it. And everything we learned within that structure was done under the current business as usual and traditional structures. Now we are awkwardly, clumsily sometimes, and creatively finding our way outside of the existing systems together. And we get to put our learning into practice. So I guess that's my personal invitation to you all, and myself included, to dream and do like the new things because the old systems are needing to be composted. So here's our chance. And Jay Tom's on the call, and there's so many others who I know who have been like on this case for some time. So I'm just really excited to like hear your voices, have your thoughts shared, and like be brave and audacious and dream big with us in Hylo and elsewhere. So I'll just leave it there. We just want to invite any thoughts and feedback now. We can end the presentation, and just deep gratitude to everyone who's on the call right now and a part of this moving forward. And those of you who weren't able to make this call and seeing this as a recording, thank you too.